Hi, my name is Nick Welsh. Welcome to ICP, which stands for Integrated Chemistry and Physics. I'm going to walk you through the syllabus and a couple things to get started today. So if you haven't done so, please go ahead and grab a syllabus that should be waiting for you by the door. And go ahead and rip those two pages apart because you're going to turn one of them in and you're going to keep the other one. Let's go ahead and take a look at the back page, which is called the Student Information Sheet. I'm going to pull that up on my screen right now. And let's take a look at this together, okay? So even if you filled out a student information sheet for me in the past, please go ahead and fill out a new one for me. Or if you're new, go ahead and fill one out anyway. Everyone's going to turn one of these in today. At the very top, please go ahead and put your name, printed please, and a contact number that I can reach you at. And then check the boxes on the right to tell me if you have a computer and/or internet access at home. If you are under the age of 18, please go ahead and fill out this middle box with a parent or guardian name and contact. It could either be their cell phone or email, whichever you have access to. And then everyone's going to fill out the bottom, which is just a way for us to kind of get a jump start in the class. The upper right or upper left box rather is where you're going to put anything that you feel like you're good at, any strengths or skills. In the upper right box, you're going to put anything that you struggle with. It could be reading, writing, math, whatever. And then down at the bottom, anything that I need to know about you to better help us interact together. Do you have a preferred name versus your given name? Do you have preferred pronouns? Is there any other things that I need to be aware of just that might come up? Go ahead and jot that down in a note and let me know so we can better get through the class. Go ahead and pause the video here to allow students to fill that out. And then students, when you're finished, please go ahead and hold it up in the air and I will come collect it or the teacher will come collect it. Okay, now that everyone's filled out the student information sheet, let's go ahead and take a look at the syllabus together. So flip over to the front page. At the very top, you're going to see my name and contact information. Again, my name's Nick Welsh, and then that is my phone number and my email in the upper right-hand corner. So if you need to reach out because you're going to be missing class, you're running late, you need extra help or anything like that, go ahead and send me a text or an email. Both come to my phone quite quickly, so I will get back to you as soon as I can. Just be aware if you send me a text later at night, please do so it's there for me in the morning, but I might not get back to you until the next day. All right, let's take a look at what we're going to be going over in Integrated Chemistry and Physics, ICP. Well, it's a really fancy way to say we're going to spend 4 weeks on physics and we're going to spend 4 weeks on chemistry. So the first 4 weeks on the physics unit, we're mostly tracking the motion of objects. So we're measuring motion in many, many different ways, talking about things like distance, displacement, speed, velocity, acceleration. We're also going to talk about the energy objects have and how they use that energy. And then we're going to be finishing up with a midterm at the end of that first 4 weeks. Then we take the midterm. The midterm is only over physics, so only over the stuff we go over the first 4 weeks. And then at that end of the 4 weeks, as long as you're passing both the class and the midterm, you will get credit for ICP-A. Then we'll go ahead and jump right into ICP-B, which is the chemistry side of things. So we're actually going to start out with that. States of matter is kind of a bridge lesson between the two. It's kind of how they're related. So we'll talk about temperature scales and states of matter. Then we'll get into the atom itself. How did we discover it? What do we know about the atom? Then we'll be talking about that big chart in the upper left-hand corner of the room, the periodic table of elements. There's so much information on there that you're going to learn how to pull out and read and decipher. And then we finish up with a little bit on electricity and fusion versus fission nuclear energy. At the end of that, we'll take the final exam, but the final exam is only over the second 4 weeks for chemistry. So it's kind of split into two little mini classes, 4 weeks on physics, then we take a test, 4 weeks on chemistry, then we take a final just over chemistry. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to ask. But go ahead and turn over to the back page so you can take a look at how we get graded in this class. If you're new to the Excel Center, this might be a bit of a shock, but assessments, which are quizzes and tests, make up 80% of your grade. That's a really big chunk, but remember, that's because here at the Excel Center, we're doing things at an accelerated pace. So what I would normally teach over 185 days, I have to do in about 30. So it's very important for you to show mastery of the material. The other 20% comes from classwork. So this could be mostly exit tickets, which we'll have at the end of each new lesson, as well as any labs or big activities that we do. Anytime you do a lot of effort, I want to give you some points and give you some credit for that. So that'll all go into the other 20%. While we're still talking about grades, I do want to say for the assessment grades, because it's such a big chunk of your grade, we're going to do weekly quizzes. So if you take a look in the upper right-hand corner of the room, you'll see on Thursdays, it will usually say review and quiz. And their quizzes are just over the material for that week. So they're meant to be more quizzes that are smaller in size and more focused on the material just from that week. That way you have a number of grades in that really big category. So if you don't do well on one, it doesn't bring your whole grade down. Also, you can always retake any quiz or test with me during tutoring to get a better score. So it's really important that you make sure that big chunk of your grade is a really good, solid grade so that you pass the class. All right, next we have classroom expectations. If you look around the room, you're not going to see a big list of rules, and that's mostly because we operate on the golden rule. Please treat others as you would like to be treated. So I'm always going to do my very best to show each and every one of you the utmost respect, and I just hope that you share the same with me, as well as share that respect with each other as well. We're all here for very different reasons, but with common goals, so it's very important that you don't disrupt someone else's ability to focus and pass the class because they're spending the time and they deserve that chance. Next, try and be here on time and be professional and respectful, right? We talked a little bit about that, on time and prepared. I usually start class right away, so usually this is the second period class at 10:30. 10:30 is when class time starts, and I will usually start class right away because we usually have a lot to get through. So just try and be here, ready to go. For quiz days, try always to be the All right, for the third bullet, always give your best effort and believe in yourself, especially on quiz days when it's been a really stressful week and you feel very rushed due to the accelerated pace. It's always important to come in on quiz days with a good attitude because you might be surprised about how much you learned during the course of that week. So you don't have to come in overconfident, but just try your best, especially on quiz days. And then finally, it's very important to follow all Excel Center policies, right? We're a typical school, so we have to follow those typical school rules. Like, please don't try and fight each other. Don't bring in any drugs and alcohol. Please don't bring in any weapons, whether they be real or toys. We've had some issues with that, so just keep all that stuff at home. Don't do something silly that gets you removed from the class and hinders your ability to pass. All right, next, we need to talk about these cell phones, okay? Cell phones in the modern day and age are just something we can't escape. So it's very important that you learn how to use it responsibly, especially since we're in adult high school. It's not like I can just say, hey, I need them away all the time, 100% of the time. It's not realistic. So what I need from you guys is to manage it responsibly. One of the biggest myths is that people think that they can multitask. And take it from someone who studied science in the brain, that is not a thing. The front part of your brain, the part that does the thinking, okay, about what words mean, about what we're saying, about what concepts we're talking about, that can only do one thing at a time. So while you're focused on the Snapchat, the TikTok, and the Facebook on your phone, physically you're in the room, but mentally you're off in cyberspace and you're going to miss out on a lot of material. So it's really important that you limit that use as much as possible. If you get friends or family or work or something texting, you have to answer it. Try and keep it to 30 seconds or less and then put the phone away and it won't be an issue. If you get a call that you must answer from work or a doctor's office or family, don't interrupt class. Just hold up your phone, shake it a little bit. I'll know what you mean. I'll send you out in the hallway. Keep it to a minute or two and then get back into class. If cell phone use becomes a big issue, we'll have a one-on-one conversation about that. You're going to see teachers using it as well. So it's really important that we all use it responsibly. You're never going to see me in the middle of a conversation, stop that conversation so that I can send a text to somebody or, message out or something like that. The only time that I do ask for cell phones to be away is during quizzes and tests because I know how easy it is to look things up online through AI or through Google or whatever. So it's really important that during test times, those phones are away. If you do see a student with a phone during a quiz or test, chances are they're using it as a translation tool because English is a second language for them, and that's granted on a one-on-one basis. So when it's necessary, we use it, and when it's not, they won't be using it either. So just limit your cell phone use. Don't let it be a policy because the last thing I want to see is someone not pass the class because they can't put down their phone. The next section is makeup work. So if you take a look here, you're going to see all the um, guidelines or procedures that I would like you to follow. It's really hard when you miss a day of this class in particular because everything that we do builds on the next thing. So when we talk about things like distance and displacement, that's going to help us understand speed and velocity. When we talk about speed and velocity, that's going to help be necessary to understand acceleration. So everything is a building block process. And when you miss a lot of those days, it gets very, very confusing about where the information's coming from and how it all fits together. So I encourage you to miss as little as possible, but I understand life happens, and so sometimes you have to miss class. When you do miss class, please try and get that makeup work the next day you're back to school. I usually have it at the very front, so you can just kind of give me a quick, hey, can I have the work that I missed yesterday or whatever. If it's more complicated than that, I might ask you to come into tutoring, or you can always come into tutoring to get makeup work because that's a great time to do that. And let's go ahead and talk about tutoring while we're getting into that. Tutoring is on Fridays from 10 to 12. It's usually every Friday of the term. Sometimes we might have a meeting or something where we have to be out, but we always let you know ahead of time. If I'm personally going to be out, I will let you know, and you can still come in for tutoring and work on my stuff. Just make sure I know ahead of time so I can leave that work with somebody else if I'm going to be out, but that usually does not happen. Another really important thing I want to talk about with tutoring is that's the best time to make up any quiz or test. So if you don't get the grade that you want on any quiz or test, you can retake it during tutoring. What I will do is I will give you your old test back so you can take a look at it, see what you got right, see what you got wrong. We can have a little discussion about that or a little review session about things that you don't feel comfortable with. And then I'm going to take that away and I'm going to give you a new copy and you're going to retake the test. I will always take the higher of the two scores, so there's no harm in retrying any quiz or test. If for some reason you do more poorly on the second attempt than the first one, I'll keep the first score. So you always get the benefit of the doubt on that. And then tutoring is really important. Please make use of that time, especially with this class. Sometimes if people struggle with the math or some of the concepts, it's really important to come in and get that little extra help. So make use of tutoring because it's here for you guys. All right, may the mass times acceleration be with you, and that'll be hopefully a joke you get later in the class. All right, at this time, we're going to go ahead and get started on some actual physics stuff. So you can go ahead and pause the video and hand out the notes on the metric system.